Future Trunks, the guy who stole the show and cut Frieza a break from his evil reign. The guy who potentially has the most importance in Dragon Ball history, saving Goku from the heart virus, preparing the past for the android invasion, changing the entire course of Dragon Ball, and eventually saving his own future at the end of the Cell Saga by using his incredible new power he gained with his father Vegeta, who he never knew growing up. Future Trunks, on arrival, was the embodiment of mystery. He was the original turn up unannounced and trash the party kind of guy. And his story, his growth, his pain, his suffering, we all felt it. It was told with such passion, such care, and we related to Trunks probably more than Goku or Vegeta at that point. The Android Saga as a whole started with Trunks and it ended with Trunks. The whole journey was a perfect start and a perfect end, pun intended. And to leave it up to our imaginations if we would ever see him again. Oh wait, we did! Just look how friggin' jacked he is! When we look back on Dragon Ball Z, Future Trunks is one of those names that symbolizes the greatness of that show. Did the feelings hit hard when Trunks saw Future Gohan laying there in the rain after fighting hard against the androids in a courageous fight? The speech that Trunks give, the emotion, the rage. Trunks had been trying to achieve this form but couldn't quite get the final push, emphasizing the motive behind it from deep down. And finally, it was Gohan's death that pushed Trunks to becoming a Super Saiyan. You could see his pain when he hit the floor during the scene. A lot of us tear up seeing this scene, and this was when Super Saiyan was like a rite of passing after going through a very tough time in life. I need not go into details of the story of Future Trunks, you guys know that story, but what I will focus on is right at the end of the Cell Saga where Future Trunks had grown into a man. He was no longer the boy on the run from the androids, he had become the man who was hunting those tin cans like a goddamn nightmare, because Future Trunks is a goddamn nightmare. We saw him learn from his mistakes, the bulky ascended forms, learning from his father, finally sharing that bond with his father just before they left, realizing he attacked Cell just for him, and finally, seeing Trunks return to his future and destroying Cell and the androids, showed us that timeline had nothing to fear anymore. There was Trunks, who also learned from Goku about being a hero. Having the memories of Future Gohan inside, we would hope to see Trunks live in that timeline as the lone savior, who would possibly grow into something stronger than anyone ever thought. A tough veteran, maybe even with a beard 10 years on. The possibilities were endless for Trunks' growth and who he was to become. He was destined to be the Geralt of his time, or so we thought. Being of similar hybrid nature to Gohan, and unquestionably having far more motivation to defeat the androids, the only reasons you can say Trunks didn't achieve mastery of Super Saiyan, or hell, even Super Saiyan 2, was due to plot, but mostly due to training alone and being someone with actually very poor training experience and history, as well as not being very perceptive. Think about it, Trunks is a guy who had a brief moment of training with Future Gohan. Ever since then, he ran away and hid every day of his life, and suffered extreme pain. He may do a few sword chops here and there in the mountains, but really, what experience of training does this guy have? Absolutely low amounts. The only times he saw someone train intensely for a long period of time was watching his own father train inside the time chamber, which if you think about it, all he did was pick up on things visually, and trying to learn something from someone as hot-headed and angry as Vegeta is not going to be the best way of learning. Trunks went into the time chamber a second time, still with limited training experience, and probably just trained in a raw Saiyan punishment training procedure just like before. Imagine Goku went into the time chamber with Trunks, and the story called for Trunks to be the one to defeat Perfect Cell. This hybrid is going places, bro. In a nutshell, Vegeta and Trunks trained harder, but Goku and Gohan trained smarter. Those two didn't know how to properly train to the same degree as Goku did. This is a key difference between them all. Vegeta was born strong, and even as a child, rarely encountered anyone he couldn't overwhelm by brute force. He neither wanted, in his pride, nor had much access to any teachers to guide him. Most of what he knows is self-taught or through imitation. He doesn't humble himself to the point of asking someone to teach him until Whis. Goku was born weak and in his early years encountered many friends, foes alike, who were actually stronger than him at times. As such, he learned there was something to be gained through learning from others and was receptive to teaching. He was also fortunate in having many good teachers, good not only at fighting but also good at teaching. Trunks had the misfortune of not having access to good teachers, as all decent candidates were dead in his timeline. The training from Gohan was minimal. You might notice that when Goku and Gohan were training, Goku used his knowledge to bring out Gohan's hidden potential, and then used Gohan as an effective training partner to bring out his own strength. Like I said, Trunks and Vegeta didn't get that much training time together. Vegeta ignored Trunks most of the time, and this reduced the effectiveness of their training and was a much less efficient way of exploiting their inner Saiyan growth abilities. having an initial warm-up round against Cell which didn't look too bad, landing a hit here and there, following up with further power-ups and an epic matchup in the Ghost from Tomorrow episode. Eventually this leads to Cell outclassing Trunks, but the point being, Trunks looked like he performed better against Perfect Cell than Vegeta did. It looked that way, right? And it's true to some extent. Trunks did perform better against Cell than Vegeta did. It is even more true that Trunks did display a power far greater than Super Vegeta's on-screen power by utilizing Super Saiyan Grade 3, often referred to as the Ultra Power or Ultra Trunks, whereas Vegeta only utilized the Grade 2 power. So in technical terms, yes, Trunks was stronger than Vegeta in that battle, and the reason for that was he used a transformation that ascended his brute force, which if he did hit Cell with it, it would hurt. So first of all, let's clean up the misconception of when Trunks actually transformed into Super Saiyan Grade 3 or Ultra Trunks. Some people think Trunks was only Grade 2 when he initially powered up, you know, when his ponytail band ripped off and his hair launched up, eyes disappearing. This was 100% not Grade 2, but actually Grade 3, and let me explain why. First of all, even in the manga, his body is much more bulkier looking now than it was when he was fighting off Cell previously to stop him absorbing Android 18. You see in the anime, after this moment, there are like 2 episodes with Trunks constantly powering up, where it's so mad that his muscles just continuously get bigger and bigger, ridiculously in size. It's ridiculous. He will fight a little bit, then he will power up a little bit more and try to combat Cell again. Most of this was hugely for cinematics and effect, but from the moment his ponytail hair was all spiked up, when he powered up in front of Krillin, he was Grade 3. From there, Trunks would just raise his power while still in that form. We see it all the time. Fighters can remain in the same form and just raise their power. That's what Trunks was doing. He wasn't going Grade 3.5. He was constantly trying to keep his brute power topped up before the next fight and skirmish with Cell. You see, every time Trunks would miss a few punches and looked completely out of breath, he would turn around, face Cell, then power up again, with the electricity finally appearing, showing us that during the times he's missing and getting tired, his power is actually dipping, so he has to get a second win and power up again, if that makes sense. Like real life, if we were training and doing sprints, after a few sprints, we would take that recovery window to breathe, gather our strength, power back up and explode again for the next sprint. This is how Trunks was engaging with Cell, while still being in Grade 3, because he needed all the power he could get. But it was literally sucking him dry. He was wheezing more than wheezing. Now, why was he Grade 3 when his hair first spiked up? Well, it's simple. Up until that point, Trunks was talking to Krillin about how he believed he surpassed Vegeta in the Time Chamber and unlocked a power beyond Super Vegeta's level. Obviously, he was dead wrong about this, but at this moment, Krillin was encouraging Trunks to use this drastic Super Saiyan form, and after Trunks powered up, Krillin was completely shocked, and so was Cell. They had never seen this form before, and this strengthens that Trunks had become Grade 3 at this point, not Grade 2, because Cell or Krillin wouldn't be shocked at seeing the same form as Super Vegeta. They'd already seen that form, and by Krillin's analysis of Trunks' power-up, it was crystal clear Trunks had become this drastic Super Saiyan, the Ultra Trunks form. It was even narrated at this point that it was Ultra Power, which is above the super power Vegeta used. And just to debunk this real quick, about the right in using Krillin to imply Trunks is holding back and broke through barriers Vegeta couldn't, we know that was all wrong, because after the fight with Cell, it was solidified that Vegeta did do it and chose not to. That will end all arguments right there. We're going to discuss future Trunks and present timeline Gohan and analyze the circumstances in the story why future Trunks couldn't go Super Saiyan 2 before Gohan. Despite being older and despite being a hybrid just like Gohan, the first son of Goku and the first son of Vegeta, you would think would have similar potential, especially considering Trunks had the Aspal of Aspals in Dragon Ball Super with the so-called Super Saiyan Rage, going from Super Saiyan 2 to clearly beyond Resurrection F level Super Saiyan Blue, even further than that. Oh, but then Gohan got the same treatment too. One night camping in the mountains with Piccolo having marshmallows by the fire, and he's suddenly gone from struggling with wolves to forcing Goku to use Super Saiyan Blue Kaioken. My goodness. So let's talk about the obvious. Gohan had a lot of hidden potential in Dragon Ball Z that all surface in the Cell games. That is the biggest, most obvious answer to this video, as well as Trunks flat out being not strong enough to achieve Super Saiyan 2 from what we saw. But if the trigger was right, could he have done it, and more importantly, Why didn't he get as strong as Gohan? Trunks is also a hybrid, and in Z, where the hell was that level of potential compared to Gohan's? That boy grew up in a world filled with suffering, and I'm sure he had a lot of emotion built up inside to trigger the opening for his power to go even further, if the writing allowed it. And that's what it ultimately comes down to, is the writing. Gohan was written to be a monster of a Super Saiyan 2, and Trunks was written to be the guy who changed the future, but not to be the strongest of all of them. I love that story and wouldn't complain about it, but it still makes you wonder. Let's compare Trunks and Gohan's fighting experience through the years. Gohan's is pretty obvious. From 5 years old, he prepared and fought the Saiyans, gone to Namek, and had incredible battles there. If you want to count the Gallic Jr. saga, you can, and then of course, the 3 years preparing for the androids, to which he actually didn't do anything significant until the time he went into the time chamber, trained for a little less than a year, and then had the one big fight against Cell. So all in all, Gohan's fighting and training experience to that point is approximately 1 year for the Saiyans, a few months for Namek, 3 years with Goku and Piccolo, and up to 1 more year in the time chamber. We can say approximately 5 years of some intense times, with Trunks being a little different. He is roughly 17 years old when he faced Frieza, and we have to consider him arriving again in 3 years after that, to which he is 20, and then 2 years in the time chamber, giving him a physical age of 22. That was when we saw future Trunks at his greatest potential in Dragon Ball Z. For the 20 years before the time chamber, we don't know if future Trunks had consistent training, or what battles he fought, but we know it was on and off with the androids, and he was basically surviving in the future. How often he fought them, and how much he grew from it, it's hard to say, but if I had to place a guess, I would say future Trunks did his own personal training, with that being not that efficient compared to the likes of Gohan in the present timeline, but what kept his strength up was his hybrid nature, and possibly some Zenkai boosts after being beat the crap into by the androids, where they were just toying around with him. There were so many theories that obviously in the future timeline, everything was much more depressing, tons of suffering, and I made a video on future Gohan why he was weaker than present timeline Gohan, and it relates to the spirit of the fighter, the motivation, the grief, and how all the pain can have a negative effect on someone in terms of their potential and growth. Yes, Saiyans get stronger from coming back from the brink of death, and maybe Trunks did gain power from those circumstances, but so did present timeline Gohan. A lot actually, especially on Namek. I feel the circumstances that future Trunks was in, he just couldn't make the best of it. When you think about it, Gohan, whenever he trained as a kid, it was super efficient with Piccolo, with Goku, and it was that consistency which helped him grow. And we all know consistency is very important if we train. But when Trunks went back to the future to beat the androids after the Cell games, he was far above future Gohan then, and much, much younger. But it wouldn't be for years later until Trunks achieved Super Saiyan 2, that being against Dabura. But present timeline Gohan achieved Super Saiyan 2 when he was almost a third of Trunks' age when he achieved it, which is crazy. Of course, right in. Cell games was Gohan's time. I believe Trunks' potential was held back due to his lifestyle and training knowledge. Even when Trunks had a training plan, when he was training with Vegeta, it was the wrong plan in the grand scale of things, and a lot of time wasted because he spent it focusing on pumping up his little muscles for power amp purposes, rather than conditioning his body with the Super Saiyan power for fighting purposes, which Goku and Gohan did. Gohan had a head start on him from there, and this was proven when he came out of the room in Spirit of Time with Goku. Trunks and Gohan both showed their hybrid potential in Dragon Ball Super, but I think with future Trunks, what he was missing was the right trigger. We saw his trigger against Zamasu. If he had a trigger like that in the Cell games, who knows how much stronger he could have got. Sometimes it's about unlocking the door and finding the key to opening it. Gohan's was obvious, Android 16, and his speech said it all. But still, even with pure raw power, Gohan was far above Trunks in the Cell games, and I personally, as a fan, point it all to training routine. It wasn't about training hard and gritty all the time and burning yourself out. That was like Trunks and Vegeta's training. But Gohan's training was from Piccolo, Goku, and it was consistent, and there was focus and underlying messages in the training. Gohan was able to combine that with all the wars and experience he fought in on Namek, and with that it kept Gohan in tip-top shape and condition right up until the Room of Spirit and Time, where all he needed was a little training tweak to master the hidden Super Saiyan power within. And once he met all those conditions, he was ready, even at that age. Trunks just had the missing ingredient, and that was good conditional training of mind, body, spirit. Gohan started training at a much younger age than when Trunks first started training with future Gohan, so there's that advantage too. I strongly believe if future Gohan survived and kept training Trunks, I feel Trunks would have had a better foundation of training and experience in terms of skill and combat, rather than just running away from the androids day in and day out getting beat the crap into. That's not training, that's not conditioning. He may get a Zenkai boost here and there, but that battering day in and day out is enough to screw with any character mentally, and take away from his focus and time on training properly like Gohan did. Being a hybrid was the key to more potential in Dragon Ball Z, but if the hybrid had the proper fighting and training experience as well, he would become stronger than even the adults. Training experience, mentors, and the right triggers. Oh, and the writing. Why has future Trunks become a disgrace to Dragon Ball? How could a purple-haired, hardened warrior who overcame all of his obstacles and grew his power and muscles to unimaginable levels suddenly fall to become a skinny, blue-haired crybaby looking to daddy for help, where his character development suddenly went in reverse to the point which made Z look like a waste of time? Well, you're about to find out the cold, hard truth of the downfall of future Trunks. Then came along one Dragon Ball Super, and you can kiss any form of sense and good storytelling goodbye, because the first thing we see, despite an epic entrance by Goku Black, is our hero Future Trunks. Wait, is this Future Trunks? Why does he look younger than Ash Ketchum? Why the hell is his hair blue? Why is he skinny? This is not Trunks. I swear, the moment I saw this, I thought, no way, this has to be Trunks from another timeline altogether. Not the one he went back and killed Cell in. Not the one who rocked up in the BoJack movie. Dragon Ball Super's Future Trunks was a complete and utter disgrace. I would go as far to say he was written to be a bigger disappointment than Kid Trunks, and that's saying something. At least Kid Trunks had no pressure. He was a different Trunks. Born in times of peace, he had no legacy apart from terrible writing of failing to beat Majin Buu. However, Future Trunks, boy did that dude have a legacy, a history, only for it all to be rendered obsolete. Washed away like it never happened. Future Trunks in Dragon Ball Super was like a new character, some innocent little boy from a world that needed help. He showed no qualities of who he was supposed to grow into. He was absolutely pathetic. Oh, but a handful argue, well, Future Trunks has been through a lot. He's finally broken down. He has PTSD. Give him a break. Look, to that guy, first of all, calm yourself. I'm not having a go at Trunks. This is the writer's fault for being complete jokers. This ruined our memories of Trunks. Ours. Yes, us. We are here as a team. It's us versus the writers. Do you really think the writers give a crap about PTSD and Trunks' suffering? This is Dragon Ball Super. There is no such thing as in-depth character growth or storytelling. It's as much of a cluster and confusion as a goddamn Rubik's Cube being played by someone who is colorblind. Future Trunks was introduced in Super to try and appeal to new fans, new lovable innocent fans, yeah right, who want a new character to attach themselves to. Well, congratulations, you got your Future Trunks. You know something? Newer Dragon Ball fans would have done a lot better with that big jacked up role model Future Trunks returning. He would have snapped Goku Black's spine in half like he was craving a hyperbolic time Kit Kat. Look, the whole Future Trunks arc in Dragon Ball Super was introducing us to a new villain in Trunks' timeline. Of course, this was massive fan service bringing Trunks back, but for the love of Kami, bring him back with consistency, the purple hair, the maturity. I don't give a damn what the reason is for his blue hair. Just keep it consistent, you sloppy writers. There was no problem with it in Z, ever. So with Future Trunks arriving in distress looking for help, this could have been a great arc for Trunks to get justice and save his future. But we know where that took us. Yes. The stupid Zeno button, the stupid erasure, the stupid ending, the stupid Trunks returning to a new future where there will be two Trunks. I mean, this entire arc was wasted. It was written by a clown. I never even had a problem initially with the Spirit Sword of Hope that Trunks used. Only if that was the finishing move to end the saga. I could have stomached that, thinking at least Trunks did it. He friggin' did it, with the help of the power of the people who were left. But all we got was disappointing moments one after another until the Zamasu universe took place, and man, this idea, whoever wrote that Zamasu universe idea needs to be jackknife powerbombed straight to HFIL. So we get a meaningless arc, and what does Trunks get? He gets Super Saiyan Rage, or whatever we want to call this. All I have to say is Trunks was portrayed with a Super Saiyan 2 level of power. Sure, he should have been portrayed much stronger after all those years, but the fact this new form, this Rage form, which was only added as a cash grab transformation mind you, to sell the toys, no explanation on any part of it except now his power goes leaps and bounds over the Super Saiyan Blues of that arc, holding off Goku Black and Zamasu at the same time. You talk about Golden Frieza having an ass pull transformation out of nowhere, but this one comes in second place very closely. It makes no sense, and the writers expect old school Dragon Ball fans to just deal with it like it's okay. This is the type of lazy, thoughtless, cash grabbing concepts which push me away from Dragon Ball Super and any latest installments. I have zero emotional attachments to these characters or forms after decisions like this. And if I did have any, which I kind of did in the beginning with Future Trunks and all the suffering, seeing the death of Bulma, it was all intense stuff, but they just threw it all away as it went on and ruined the finale of the arc, making it all pointless. So why should we care? They need to get better creative workers behind the scenes, because I feel that they produce things way too fan-servicey combined with trying to make things appeal for the kids only. They need to stick to a formula, be consistent, and portray characters properly, how they should have been. Why do you think Dragon Ball is loved so much to this day? I'll tell you something, Dragon Ball Z was a huge part of it. There was so much potential in the relationship with Mai 2. Everything felt so rushed for anything to really sink in, to let our emotions grow to the characters a little more. We don't see many of the warm moments that build the characters outside of the battles either. Everything is just made light humor of. In the manga, Trunks goes down a different path in becoming an apprentice Kai. We see him tangle with Dabura, which was done quite well actually, and I enjoyed that. I only wish that momentum stuck with Trunks. He became pretty much a punching bag for the rest of the chapters to come. So really, an inevitable end for Trunks. Sad, really. I really want to know your thoughts on Future Trunks in Dragon Ball Super, guys. Did you like him or didn't you like his portrayal? What do you think happened to him, and could it have been done much better? How would you have written Trunks there in Super? Because personally, I would have had the arc end with him being the true hero. That button, man, it makes me sick. That button identifies how serious we should take Dragon Ball Super. So in a nutshell, what the hell happened to Future Trunks in my own words? His character was butchered in Dragon Ball Super by removing all of the amazing qualities that made Trunks, Trunks. His determination, willpower, growth, memories, becoming his own man. All of that was replaced by a little boy with no hope, looking for daddy to help him, which makes future kid Trunks look like a complete badass. Oh, but he had that awesome moment in the backyard where he lured Vegeta to attack him. Wow. You call that great? Really? Really? Super Saiyan Rage doesn't save Trunks' character. The Sword of Light doesn't save Trunks' character. The little pointless empty goodbye that Gohan gave Trunks doesn't save his character. We fans can't save Trunks' character. Dragon Ball Super destroyed an incredible character. And now there is no hope left for future Trunks. But just keep buying that merchandise, guys. It really helps Toei, Akira Toriyama, and everyone else. They love you so much for doing that, and they think about you every day. Interestingly, the Future Trunks arc in Dragon Ball Super received a mixed reaction from fans all across the world, but in this video I will be joined by an old friend to explain to you guys the secret hidden meanings behind Future Trunks, Zamasu, and the Sword of Hope, as the story between Trunks and Zamasu actually has more holy references than you may have thought. When it comes to Dragon Ball, or any story for that matter, ideas derive from everything else in life, like a ripple effect, and the Future Trunks arc does indeed have very similar storytelling aspects to that of Michael vs. Lucifer in the Bible, or as many know it as the War in Heaven. And believe it or not, the similarities are closer than you think. And it doesn't matter if you're a religious person or not, this video is made so everyone can enjoy it and learn from it. But to join me today to explain all of that is my old friend Halusa Twin, and probably the most ideal person to explain the connections between Zamasu and Lucifer, and Trunks' Sword of Hope. Because Halusa Twin, believe it or not, has two channels. One for his epic Dragon Ball music tracks, and the other is where he actually voices, yes, voices, Zamasu and Lucifer in many funny videos. So there's no better person I'd rather have. And don't worry, we're both well aware that Halusa Twin is recording from inside a water tank. So first of all, many fans today may not know the biblical story of Lucifer versus Michael, and basically, God created angels, God created man, Lucifer didn't like man.
What I thought I'd do is I thought I'd just quickly throw in a quick couple of points where Lucifer and Zamasu are very similar. Okay, which is very funny because I voiced both of those characters. They both thought that they were right, didn't realize that they were evil, or that they were going down a dark path. They believed that their views were correct. For example, Zamasu didn't think that he was being wrong with his assumption of destroying humanity because he saw it as being impure. The same with Lucifer. He was jealous of human beings because they create hate and they create, war, and they hurt each other and destroy each other. The other thing is, obviously, with those two, they had a clouded judgment, of course, what is pure, despised humans for their gifts as well. So, for example, Zamasu keeps going on about how they squander their gifts, you know, the knowledge that they've been given, the, you know, power of God, the power of creation, the same as Lucifer. He also despised human beings because of the gifts that were given to them by God. Him being the only angel that had the same gifts, but no other angel did, so he felt that that was unfair and that God was favoring humans over angels. So he tried to uprise against that. Same thing with Zamasu, of course. He felt like Gawasu was doing exactly the same thing, ignoring the fact that, you know, human beings had all this power, but Kaioshins literally are overseers and don't intervene or do anything. So very similar there. They also both fell from grace. So, you know, obviously with Lucifer, he massed an army and, you know, created a bit of discord. Zamasu, he basically joined up with himself, the form of Goku Black, similar to how Lucifer expelled the darkness in his soul, and it became another entity called Satan, which then helped him, or tried to assist him, in taking the throne from Yahweh.
And I find that so interesting how the Future Trunks arc, despite many fans not being a fan of it, how well it tries to stick to that template, if you will, of Michael versus Lucifer, and having Trunks be that guy who gives the final hit to beat Zamasu, similar to how it was with Michael versus Lucifer. Of course, we have Zeno turning up and just destroying the whole damn show, which, if you want to add your own fan lore, you could say Zeno is God, and he just had enough of the whole damn mess. But that really brings us to the main part of the video, and that's Future Trunks' Spirit Sword, the Sword of Light, the Sword of Hope, the Sword of Omens, and how similar it is to the Sword of Michael.
The other similarity, of course, is the sword. Trunks' divine spirit sword is so similar to the sword that Michael used against Lucifer to defeat him. The fight, the battle, and all the rest of it comes to the end where Zamasu is actually defeated by the sword, same as Lucifer. Similar story there as well, very good comparison. Trunks being very similar to the angel Michael as well, because he's the only one standing up against him, or has the power to stand up against him. And the only difference in the whole story is that Zamasu gets erased and Lucifer gets banished. That's the only difference. Everything else is very, very similar. It's almost like they took segments of the first couple of chapters of the Bible and just threw it straight into Dragon Ball Super.
And you know, if we eliminate power scaling for a moment and all the complaints that Trunks had of being the guy to step up where Goku and Vegeta failed, even if power groups didn't even make that much sense, at least the Future Trunks finishing off Zamasu was loyal to the degree in terms of Michael beating Lucifer. And when it comes to the Sword of Hope, I find that such an epic piece of symbolization, as the sword is powered by the mere humans, the humans that Lucifer despised very much, and it was their combined power put into that sword that had the power to overcome Zamasu, or the representation of Lucifer. How the humans, after all the hell they suffered in the future timeline, rose up and fought back against the evil together. I find that poetry so beautiful. And on top of that, it was channeled to the wielder of the sword, Future Trunks, who symbolized Michael. Very interesting stuff, guys, and perhaps a hidden meaning many of you guys didn't even know. But what we want to know in the comments, guys, are any other biblical or mythical references that you've seen in Dragon Ball stories over the years. For example, we got the classic Sun Wukong, you know, anything like that, or real life references. Be sure to share your knowledge below. Future Trunks and Mai get out of the time machine and set foot down in the grassy area. There are civilians around who look on. Not as busy as the present timeline, but still a peaceful world. In this world, there had been no problems since the appearances of Babidi and Dabura. Future Trunks and Mai walk along the park area by Capsule Corporation. Suddenly, a power is felt approaching, and it approaches fast. In the air is a familiar face, and it looks down in confusion. The person in the air is Future Trunks, but the one who belonged in that timeline. He lands, and looks at the Future Trunks who just arrived. For the purposes of this video and to lower confusion, I will refer to the stronger Trunks who just arrived in this timeline as Future Trunks, and the Trunks who belongs in this timeline as just Trunks. Trunks walks over to Future Trunks, and Trunks asks him to explain what is going on, as he knows this is a time travel situation. Future Trunks approaches him with a calm presence and explains the situation to Trunks. Trunks is aware of the great power within Future Trunks in front of him, and asks everything about which timeline he came from. Trunks is absolutely in shock about the events, which will transpire soon in this timeline, unless Future Trunks can help prevent it from happening now. Future Trunks ensures Trunks is fully up to speed as they both head over to Capsule Corporation along with Mai. And as they both enter the repair center, there she stands looking proud of her newest inventions. It's Bulma, mother of Trunks, but now mother to both Trunks. Trunks says to Bulma that they have a visitor, and this is a strange situation, but everything will be alright in the end. Bulma looks at both Trunks and smiles. Future Trunks looks back at Bulma. There is a noticeable difference between this Bulma and the Bulma he recently met in our current timeline. And this Bulma was the identical image of the mother he once knew and had lost her life at the hands of Goku Black. Future Trunks stares at her and becomes emotional. He has just gone through wars and fought for a lost cause, losing his future and everything he loved. And now seeing his mother as she was before she died makes Future Trunks fall to his knees and breaks down as the memories resurface. Trunks suffers greatly from the emotional trauma and the experiences he's had. He cries as everyone looks on. Mai comforts him by kneeling down and putting her arms around him, saying everything is okay. Trunks looks on and wonders why the stronger version of himself is appearing so fragile. Future Trunks cries out that he failed Gohan, the future, everyone, and his mother. Trunks and Bulma look on, feeling sad for Future Trunks. Future Trunks begins to remember the image of Gohan right before he left the regular timeline moments ago, and this begins strengthening him. The tears begin to stop as he remembers future Gohan and how he fought for the lost cause, but still fought on, no matter what. And he promised himself that he will fight until there is nothing left, until he has no breath left. He stands back up, and this Future Trunks begins feeling more invigorated than ever. He says to Trunks and Bulma that this time we are all going to make a difference, and it all starts with Trunks in front of him. Future Trunks looks at Trunks. He tells him to look at himself and what he's become, and Future Trunks tells him that he will do everything he can for Trunks not to become what he has become, as he has become what he has through the pain, the loss, and the intense suffering in the previous arc. He did not want Trunks to go through what he had, but then he turns back to Trunks and says that he doesn't want him to experience what he has, but he needs to be ready for war at all times if he wants to enjoy the true times of peace. So he will take it upon himself to train Trunks for any future events that will cause havoc and evil in the timeline. And in the meantime, had began living in the new future with his mother and other self. Mai was also living with them and would also eventually meet the Mai from that timeline. Both of them would obviously don different hairstyles to separate their looks, so that the both Trunks would not have any complicated situations between them both. However, both the Mais knew deep down that they could forgive each other for any relationship advances between the two. They both would get on very well and accepted both existed, as funny as it would be. As for both Future Trunks and Trunks, although they looked absolutely identical, Future Trunks had a plan to separate himself from the looks of the Trunks of that time. So he took it upon himself to grow his hair back out, and went to an even greater extent of dyeing it, to a shade of purple. After he did this, he would resemble a Trunks that we all became attached to, and grew to love over the years. He would train intensely with Trunks, and would start to put more of his muscle mass back on, as he could now train easier with the added weight, and had better nutrition than before. He looked in amazing shape once again, with the long hair, and would tie it back from time to time wearing the Saiyan armor. It was a blast from the past, or in this case a blast from the future. Bulma would accept both Trunks as her sons, and this kept her busy as a mother, and would always find herself doing something, even if it was fixing both of them food or cleaning up their mess like they were kids again. Both Trunks grew together like brothers, learned from each other, and both grew strong. Did Trunks become as strong as the Super Saiyan Rage? Were the conditions ever set for that growth for him? I leave that part to your imagination. And even if Goku Black did appear, he would fail miserably at the hands of the new future. The future is protected by both Trunks, and this time, there are no soft spots. Future Trunks leads the future with Trunks, and rebuilds it day by day. No one can stop the awesome power of both Future Trunks. They become what all fans had hoped Future Trunks would become. He became a leader, a true warrior, A courageous fighter with wisdom and strength that would make future Gohan proud, as well as his father Vegeta.